All right, it's that time. It is Sessions with Sam. I was enjoying the music, and all of a sudden it was over. So that was. What music? You didn't hear my music? Oh no. All right, well I'll get that fixed for next time. I was hearing it. Did anybody else hear the music? All right, Rob Sutter, you out there? I don't know if Rob's with us today. Anyway, welcome to Sessions with Sam. I don't want to spin wheels on the music right now, but I just want to get started here so I can teach you about some SAM CLI, SAM Build. If this is your first time on the show, give us a shout out in the chat. I'd love to see you. Love to say hi. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm a senior developer advocate for serverless with AWS. I have bad news. Today I had to throw away my last and final serverless for everyone shirt. It had holes in it. I had worn it to death. So today I'm just a normal AWS, but I'll be getting more. So there we go. Better than Here We Go. Yeah, the Here We Go. That's a pretty popular song. So, okay, did anybody else hear the music? All right, great. Grant, I appreciate that. We heard the music. We've got some out there. So, all right. So, today we're going to be getting back into the SAM CLI. Up till last week, we've been kind of just living in the SAM transform. We've been talking templates, things like that. But we're going to cover, probably for the next several weeks, we're going to cover the CLI because I feel like some people are struggling with what does it do? How do I approach it? How do I make it work for me? So that's what this is going to be dedicated to. Today, we're going to be talking about SAM Build. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with SAM Build, the SAM Build, I'm going to bring up my screen here. So give me 1 second. Ooh. All right. Rob Sutter is not out there with us today. I'm sorry Rob's not with us today, but that's okay. I will be, I'll be covering it, but that makes me sad a little bit. So with SAM Build, the idea behind SAM Build is SAM Build prepares artifacts for debugging, deploying, and different things like that, troubleshooting, like that. Now, if you're a Node developer or maybe a Python developer, you may be saying, you know what, I don't have to build my code. My code's ready to go. That's true. But a lot of times we have to do work on, compiling, or not compiling is probably the wrong word, putting together, now I'm just talking about synonyms, antonyms for whatever, but basically gathering all your artifacts in a single place in preparation for debugging, testing, and deployment. And SAM Build's very helpful with that, all right? And so we're going to talk through some different things. Now, with SAM Build, there's 2 types of builds you can do. Just made it. Yay, John Walsh is with us. Glad you're here. There's 2 types of builds you can do. Now, that's a 2 there. I also do any number I want there. You can do a runtime build, which builds. It's basically the AWS managed build based on the runtime you're using, or you can do a custom build. This week is going to be dedicated to the runtime build. Next week, we're going to get into the more complex custom build in using make files and different things like that. So if you feel like I missed it this week, that's why. We're waiting till next week because there's a lot we can cover there. We look under the hood at, what is SAM Build actually doing when it does its thing. All right. So with that, let's jump in here. I'm going to blow this up just a little more. See if we can get this. Something I learned with Cloud9 is sometimes the Zoom hotkeys don't work, and that's because they're mapped differently within Cloud9. So I have to add those separately. So, all right. So let's go ahead, and we're going to just go into, I have a folder here. We're going to go into the SAM CLI folder. Okay. And we're going to initialize a new application. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna post a real quick link in here, s12d.com/learning SAM. Now, this is a new playlist that I'm doing. It's a series I'm doing. And these are basically, it's what I'm doing on Sessions with Sam, but it's nutshelled down into 10-minute references that you can say, how do I do this? How do I do this? So a lot of the chat, a lot of my banter, things like that are removed. And it's just a run through on this. And so I've already got the SAM init. So if you're not familiar with SAM init, look at the Learning SAM playlist there. And code noobs are definitely welcome. This is the place for code noobs, right? Is there a nice list of runtimes? So yeah, I'll show you here in just a second. So let's do the SAM init. Hello, hello. We've got DA-N1-N0. I don't know who. All right. Hello. You're new here. I'm glad you're here. DA-N. I don't know. N1-N0. I guess it's Nino. There it is. Okay. I've spent too much time on that. I apologize. So, all right. So let's look at the list. So I'm gonna go back to the code here. I'm going to do SAM init, and I'm going to type that properly. SAM init. And then I'm going to pick a quick start. And here is your list of runtimes. Okay, someone just asked, is there a nice list of runtimes? Okay, and colon DA for the yeah. All right, and there you go. Node, Python, Ruby, and the different versions. We have Node 12, we have Node 10, we have Python 3.8. As well as Python 3.7, Python 3.6, Python 2.7. Python don't migrate as fast, so we support several versions of that. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of these. I'm going to choose a Python. You don't usually see me do Python here because I'm not really a Python developer, but in this we can do this. I'm going to call this my Python demo, and there you go. It's going to clone it down. I'm just going to choose the hello world for the moment. Okay, so what we've got here is this is a non-compiled application. It's just a simple one. Let's go ahead and CD into that. Python. There we go. All right. And you can see here, you can see according to my application, I've got the Python demo sitting inside. And in here, I've got, and we walked through this last week, but you've got your events, you've got your hello world, and you've got your tests. Everything that's needed. Now, the thing I want to point out is in the way we've set this up is the hello world is the folder that has the entire application or the entire code source as well as the dependencies for the Lambda function. There's only one Lambda function in this application, so we're gonna show that. Now, in here we look in the requirements text, and you can see the requests. Right, that's the only requirement for this, and it's to make requests out to do asynchronous requests, things like that. So let's go ahead and do a build of this. Okay. So what we can do is we can say SAM. Actually, let's do this. Before we do that, let's test this and make sure it works. So we're going to do SAM local invoke, and that's all I got to type. Let's test it, and it's going to grab the containers. And look at there, we've got it. I got a response back. I got a 200, and my body is message hello world. Now you may be wondering about local invokes. What you didn't pass a function name. I didn't. And the only reason I didn't is if I look in my templates folder, I only have one function. SAM is smart enough to say, hey, if you just got the one, this is the one you mean, so I'll just go that. Now, if and when I add another function, then I need to pass the logical name, which is here on line 14, to have it invoke that and test that. All right, so one thing here to note is that while I ran that, I haven't downloaded and installed all my dependencies. So why did that work? Well, really, if you look in the code, what we've done is we've commented out anything that requires that location or that request feature. Okay, request.get. So what we can do is I'm gonna uncomment these, right? And I'm going to. This is hard with all my big text, so bear with me here. And finally here, okay, I'll save that. Now we're going to go back. Let's get rid of this stuff here so we can just work with these. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to run this SAM local invoke again, and it should blow up on us, and it does. Yeah, it says, hey, I can't find the module request. Now at this point, I have two options, right? I can use pip, and I can install. Now when we publish Lambda functions, we have to put everything that's required in that folder, right? So I can have, I can say pip install, and do the requirements and say install it all locally. And there we go. And in fact, we can show that real quick here. Let me go into the hello world. Okay. And I'm going to say pip install -r requirements. And man, I think it's just the dot to say install here. Let's try it. Oh, look at that. It doesn't like the version. Oh, what is it? Oh, what's the command? Does anybody know the pip command to say, hey, install it here? I don't remember it. Looking in my comments. Eric, yeah, exactly. Rob Sutters. All right, Rob. So tell me, if I'm doing pip, how do I tell it to install to a local directory? I'm waiting. I'm putting him on the spot. That's all right if we don't good. You get the idea. So no, I'm using Python. I can't do npm install. So you get the idea. If I'm doing pip here, you can actually say install it locally. I think it might be -t. You got that? Let's try -t. We'll try it. Looky there. Looky victory. It was -t. The old noggin still works. I've got some memory. All right. Okay. Rob knows less Python. Okay, that's sad. All right, so what we've got here is I've now installed the dependency. I've installed request. You can see here request 2.4, 2.24, whatever, and then also the core. But then I've installed all the other dependencies that request requires. So I've installed the dependencies of the dependencies. Now, there's no way of getting around this. It has to happen. We've got to install these. But it can get kind of cluttery in my folder in maintaining these, especially when I go past one function and I move out to like 50 Lambda functions. Do I want to go in and manage all those? Now, last week we talked a little bit about moving it out and doing shared dependencies, and you can look at that. But here we can do this. So let's run our test. Okay, and we're going to say pip install. We're going to do the first of all, I have to cd back to the root because you always have to be in the root to run wherever the template file is to run tests. So now we're going to do SAM local invoke. Right, and there we go. This tells the IP I'm coming from. Okay, so don't hack me, don't whatever. I'll change that. Alrighty, can save minutes of going through. That's right. Tejas do it. Yes, that's very true. Okay, so that's great. We've done this, but I don't think this is the best way to do this. All right, so let's drop these dependencies. Let's say, okay, we don't want to manage all those. Instead, we want to have SAM build do all this for us. All right, so now we're back to our normal one. If I were to run this, it will blow up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do SAM build, just a simple SAM build, like so. And what SAM build does, and does it very quickly, is it goes out and it says build, and for each function, I'm going to create a folder, and I use the logical name to do that, hello world function. I'm going to copy the template file over, and I'm going to load all the dependencies. All right. So now if I do SAM local and I'm still in the root, watch what happens. And it worked. Now, hopefully you may be going, wait a minute. If I look under the root folder, this is my root folder, right? So hello world, I still have no dependencies in there. Whoa, wait a minute. How does that work? So here's something I want to point out about build. And if you've heard me talk about this, it's important to understand. Build changes the structure of your application a little bit in that it adds this .aws SAM folder, and it does all the build and pushes everything out there, and it copies the template folder over, like we showed just a moment ago. Now, SAM local invoke and start API and start Lambda and SAM deploy are all what I call build aware. And what that means is it's when you run SAM local invoke, like I just did right here, it's going to first look for the .aws SAM folder. Then it's going to ensure that the template.yaml file is in there. If those are in there, then now it's going to treat this as the root of your application that you're gonna test from and build from and deploy from, or I'm sorry, test and deploy from. If it doesn't exist, then it jumps back here and says, all right, I'm going to use the template and the root. Okay, so some things to point out and save you some time because I do this all the time. If we're using like SAM local, if we do start API, right? So if you look in this, we've got an event, an API under hello. So I can actually go in here and I can say, in fact, we'll show you here. I can say SAM local start API. All right, so now my API is running. So then if I bring up another template, a new terminal, okay, I can literally say, so it tells me, hey, this is where it's running, 127.0.0.1 on port 3000. So I can say curl 127.0.0.1 colon, I probably should have put the HTTP. We'll see if this works. And then hello, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it worked. All right, everything worked, and you can see over here that that's great. Okay, you can see where it did the response. Now, SAM local is designed that if I go in, let's say I want to change that, and I want to say, hello world, how are you? I should not have to change, I should not have to restart my server. So if I go over here and I say, and I run that curl again, you'll notice my changes are not in place. And I can tell you, I have banged my head against like, why isn't this working? Losing my mind. So what I need to do is if I'm making that change, then I need to go ahead and do a quick build again, right? So I can actually just do it from here if I want. I can do SAM build. Oh, I got to make sure I'm in the environment, CD, SAM, CLI, and Python. Okay, and I'm going to do SAM build. Okay, so it's going to run that, and now I do that curl again, and you'll see that my changes are now in place. So it's important to understand if I've run SAM build and I'm running one of these that it's still up and running, I need to update that with the build. I need to basically it copies the files over. There's a company, and I'll have to find the link and link it later, but it's a company that has created a little for Node a little module that will do that automatically. It'll do a watch. I think it's called SAM Watch. So that's kind of a cool little app I've tweeted about several times, so worth looking at. All right, so hopefully that's clear. I'm going to go through and look at, do we have any questions right now here? I have Rob complaining about Python and then Build-A-Bear. I'm not sure where we're going with that. Rob, always helpful. I appreciate that. Okay, not seeing any questions at the moment, so let's jump on. So now we've done this build, but what if we have something, a compiled language like, and I'm going to do Rob's favorite form, I'm going to use Go today, all right? So what if I have a Go application? So I'm going to go back to my SAM CLI root, and I'm going to do another SAM init. This time I'm going to choose a quick start, and I'm going to use Go, and I'm going to call this my Go demo. All right, and we'll just do hello world, and there we go. All right, so now I have my Go demo right here. Okay, hello world, everything's fine. So if I go in there, cd go, all right, and I do SAM build, watch what happens. Now, rather than SAM just moving stuff around, it's now called the Go modules builder. All right, so if I look in the README, I can quickly see, hey, actually, let's bring this up in preview. Okay, I can go into preview and I can say, what are the requirements? Well, I have to have Golang installed. Right, and it'll say this for .NET Core, it'll say for Java, what are the utilities you need to build your app, right? So if I go in here, let's go back to my terminal, and we can actually kill this, and let's just get rid of this and go back to my Go terminal real quick, where I built it. Come on, here it is. All right, so in here, if I were to go into Hello World, I can literally say Go build here, and it built it. So you can see in here, I've got the hello world binary there. So what SAM is doing is it's calling that Go build function, it's the module build, and it's using that local, and it's, hey, thank you for finding that, Alex Smash, sorry. Thanks for finding that. So that's a great little utility. If you're building like with Node, you're building with some utilities, you want those to move over, it's a SAM watch, it's great. And I think it may work with some of the other languages, but I don't know for sure. All right, so that's kind of how you do a build with compiled languages. So you have some it's going to use those local utilities, right? All right, so any questions coming in? There it is. I couldn't find it that fast. Yeah, Rob Sutter, you're fired. Alex, you're hired. So the pay is low, but you get to make fun of me on this stream. So, all right. So let's do another example of SAM build. Yes, all of that after you drink. That is correct. So we're going to do another example where we look at how do I do, maybe I don't have everything I need to compile a language, right? So for this, I'm actually going to use my local machine, and we're going to bring up just my terminal. Okay, so CD to my desktop. Okay, and I'm going to do a SAM init here. And this time I'm going to do a quick start, and I'm going to pick a Ruby. I'm going to pick Ruby here, okay? And I'm going to call it my Ruby. Now, I am not a Ruby developer. This may shock you. I'll call it Ruby demo. And we'll pull that down. And it's grabbing the templates. And I'm going to do hello world example. Okay, so there's our, hey, look at that. I just did this yesterday. Let's try that again. SAM init. And then we're going to say 1. And let's call that Ruby again. Ruby 3.2.7 is what I'm using. And then I'm going to call it Ruby 2 demo. Okay. Proof I do practice before I come on. I actually make sure things work. So, all right, hello world. Now we're gonna cd into the Ruby 2 demo. Ruby 2 demo. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a SAM build here, and everything should cruise along, and it does not. Okay, and here's why. I'm a Ruby developer. I could come in and I could say, okay, I'm going to build this out. I'm going to take the time and configure my Mac to run Ruby. I have no idea how to do that. So I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 days figuring that out. Then I'm going to call Alex Wood because he's a Ruby genius. He's going to help me. And then I'm never going to develop Ruby. Okay. So that's kind of how that story would go. So instead, if I need to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a really handy little, it's not Ruby. I'm going to use a really handy little flag on our SAM build. And I'm just going to say SAM build. Okay, build. Use container. And what this does is this is going to use the runtime specific container based on the runtime you're choosing to run on, based on the OS that your runtime will be running on. So if I use container, then what happens is you can see here, start build inside a container, and it fetches the right container, it mounts it up, okay, and then it's going to mount my hello world, and now I can build this, all right? And so once I've got that, then I can do SAM local invoke again here, and it's going to use a container as well. We use a container for the invocations because it emulates what's going on in a Lambda function, and looky there, that works. Now that was a lot faster. Typing --use -container was a lot faster than me spending the next week trying to get Ruby configured on my Mac. It's kind of like configuring Python on my Mac. Python bewilders me. So I can configure Node just like that. I'm snapping. You can't tell, but this is me snapping. So Sam Nirvana, pretty awesome. All right. So with this, you have a lot of control on how you can do these builds. Now, one caveat about the use containers, right? It doesn't work with all the runtimes yet. Now, that's something that's, hey, Rob, I love you, but here it is. It doesn't work with Go. It doesn't work with .NET yet, right? But it does work with, I believe, Java. So, all righty. Oh, yeah. Here we go now. Use container. There's something going on in the chat. I'll let them catch up on that. So, all right. So any questions on, I've showed you several different types of build, non-compiled with build, and then also the use container. So any questions there? Is there a way to specify package installer version when installing in container? So yeah, you're gonna do. So I'm assuming you mean the package of the dependency, right? Package installer version. Yeah. So you can specify. You're obviously in your requirements. I don't know how they do it in Python, but you can specify which version you want of that, and the container will honor that just like it would locally on your machine. Now, if you're asking about the package installer, version of pip. No, I don't have a way to specify that within the container. It's going to use whatever's on the container, and those containers are matched. In fact, let me explain that really quick. If we do SAM init again, and I'm within the Ruby demo. That's all right. It still gets us what we want. I want to do the quick starts. Now, I want to point out a couple things that are not. Oh, hey, I must be using an old version. Let's go back to my SAM build, or back to this one. All right, so I'm gonna cd to my environment, SAM environment, SAM. Okay, now let's do our SAM init again. Hopefully I have this version updated. If not, I can update it, and you guys can watch me update it. Eric should not live code. All right, quick start. Now, Here we go. Okay, yeah, so this is updated. So I want you to notice we've got a couple of things in runtime that I want to point out. First is, well, really just one. If we go down to line 12, we've got Java 8.al2, right? So .al2 for this particular one, and I wrote a blog about this, and we'll post that. Rob, I don't know if you post this, but it's the migrating to AL2 blog that I wrote here about a month ago that talks about the new runtimes. And so this is important to understand. So if I'm doing Java 8.al2, then that's the type of container it's going to pull down to do my builds and things like that. And so Node.js runs on AL2 automatically. Node.js 12, I'm sorry. Python 3.8 runs on AL2 as well. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I really encourage you to read that blog because it talks about why you should probably start migrating your Lambdas at some point. It doesn't have to happen today. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. But AL or Amazon Linux is coming to end of life or what we call maintenance mode as of the end of this year. So something to grab. Thank you, Rob. Serverless LAN link there. So, all right. So the one other thing I'm going to point out, if we have time, I'm going to jump in real quick here and see if we can do this. And if we don't, that's okay. I think I can go over just a few minutes. So I'm going to go into my Python demo. Let's close all these out because I'm going to confuse myself. How does well, actually, I'm going to yeah. We'll try it in Python. I don't know how well I'll do here. But we need to know how well do layers come into effect here, because you can actually build a layer or manage a layer with the build function as well. All right. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to just cheat and grab some code because I don't type fast enough, or I don't do it all from memory. A layer, a Lambda layer. This allows you to control or to manage your code, share code across functions without having to package it with each one. And the cool thing about this is you're able to build those layers inside of or use SAM build to build those as well. So you can manage them very easily. And I'm trying to grab my code here. Bear with me. And I thought it would be a little sooner. So when I come back to the editing of this, I'll probably edit this moment out. But yeah, give me 1 second here. Layers, there we go. And let me grab my template, and we'll just grab this here. There we go. Layer version. All right. So copy this over, and I'm just going to pop it in, and we'll make it Python-y instead of Node-y. Okay, so we're just going to say that, we're going to call this my layer, right? And we're going to say we're going to call it's AWS SDK. That's fine. And we'll just call it. Actually, we'll call it app dependencies, and I don't need a description here. And then I'm going to leave that. Compatible runtime is Python 3.8. 3.8, okay. And then we can add this thing called metadata. Okay, it's another of the properties. It's on its own. Metadata, I believe I'm spelling that right. We'll find out shortly. And I'm actually going to right in front of y'all. This is how I do it. I go to AWS serverless layer version. If you're searching for how to do serverless things, the best way to do it is to do it this way, because you can pop right to the SAM instructions. So it's very helpful to be able to do this, and then you can add in let's see, the metadata. So I might have to go to the build. Woo! Hang on a second. Compatible control. So these are the properties. It's not listing the metadata. All right. Build method. We'll just call it. I'm gonna guess it. So you're gonna watch me. I'm gonna guess it. All right. So yeah. All right. So we're gonna say build. We'll see if this works. Build method is, and I'm gonna do the runtime. Okay. Because remember, this week we're just talking about runtime. But I could put make file here as well. Now one of these I think is not supposed to be capitalized. We will soon see. All right. Anybody throwing? Do you guys have Slack or something? We do have Slack. There's a developer Slack channel that we can get you part of. If you'll hit me, lowercase metadata is found. Oh, nice. Well done. Okay. Metadata. All right. Does that look right? Let's hope that's right. All right. So when I do this now, and I'm going to go back, I'm going to open a new terminal. Okay. Oh, first of all, I need to create a layer folder. So let's create a new directory, a new folder, and we'll call it layer. Okay. Now, what do you think needs to go in here? What's cool is really, we're just going to copy this. All I need is the requirements file. This is one way of doing it. Now I can build out the whole thing. I can install them, or I can just use the requirements.txt, and the build will build that out for me. So let's run this and see if it blows up. So SAM Python, and we're going to do SAM build. All right, now here's the test. See if I could do that partially from memory. All right. Looky there. So now what happened is, in our SAM, AWS SAM folder, if we go in here, here's our hello world function, here's our layer, and here's all my dependencies, right? So what I can now do is I can go into my content, and rather than I don't even have to keep the dependencies in there, I can just add a layer. So I can literally just come in here and say layers, and then I can say bang ref my layer, and now all those dependencies are available to my application or to my Lambda function, right? So that's another way of doing that. Now, in order for me to test locally, I will always need to run build. In fact, let's get crazy, and I'm going to go into the hello world function. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to go into the hello world function here, and I'm going to remove the requirements file here, okay? I've added the layer. Let's just see if it's going to work. So we're going to say SAM build. Nope, build failed requirements, file not found. Oh yeah, it needs the requirements. So all right, so but next time I do this, and we'll get into this next week on bigger ones. I'll do it in Node next show that I understand a little better. But that's the idea, right? So we need to make sure that with Python, I need to remove that dependency from there. But with that layer being there, the dependency will be there, and I'll fix that. So, all right. Well, we're a little bit over time, so I'm going to call it in. Hopefully, this is helpful. Again, I'll be putting another video out in the next couple of days that will sum this all up in about a 10-minute walkthrough to build it all. I really appreciate you coming to Sessions with Sam. And next week, again, we're going to be talking about custom build, and we'll see you then. Have a great weekend. We'll see you later.